Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 70, Preparations completed. Using the spirit vow, Yin Hanjiang ordered Lu Xinyi to see him at midnight, without being discovered by anyone. If she didn't obey, he would snap the jade talisman the vow was recorded on and damage her soul. Helpless, Lu Xinyi could only sneak out while Wenzhao was drinking to drown his troubles. She entered the elixir-making chamber and stared at Yao Jiaping in shock. How do you have my spirit vow? When I went to Xianyuan sect, it was obviously to treat people. Since the right protector Qiu Kongxiu was injured, I treated her and she handed this over as payment, Yin Hanjiang said carelessly, tossing the jade in his hands. I typically give two prices for my treatment. First, something important to the patient, and second, well, you've probably heard. Tearfully, Lu Xinyi made to take off her clothes. Once should be enough, right? Yin Hanjiang. Frantically, he lifted a finger and used spiritual energy to stop Lu Xinyi's movements, so she couldn't keep on undressing. Fortunately, Yao Jiaping's skin was reliable and didn't flush or show panic. It felt as if he was wearing a mask, giving Yin Hanjiang a feeling of reassurance. He said steadily, "You think too highly of yourself. I have no interest in you. What I want is the thing most important to you. I won't let you take my nascent soul, or bonded weapon." Lu Xinyi cried. "I'm not interested in those either," Yin Hanjiang said. "I just need you to complete a task." As he spoke, Bailey Qingmiao wordlessly walked up, holding a transparent talisman in one hand. Wenren he had crafted it using chaos energy. He burned it and dropped the ashes into a cup of water, which he then poured into a jade vase and handed to Lu Xinyi. "Find some way to make Wenzhao drink it," said Yin Hanjiang. Lu Xinyi was afraid to take it. What are you going to do to Wenzhao? At worst, it will make him fall back to Foundation establishment. It's not like I'm going to kill him. After all, he's my good brother. Yao Jiaping said with a smile. If you don't agree, I could make you fall to Foundation establishment instead. I'll do it. Lu Xinyi grabbed the vase. Lushija, weren't you willing to give up everything for Shikshan? You were once willing to destroy your foundation for him, so why are you choosing this now? It was Bailey Qingmiao herself speaking. She was already enlightened to the path of indifference, and when she saw Wenzhao this time, her heart remained unmoved. She had no objection to Yin Hanjiang's plot to make Wenzhao take the sect master's place, either. After all, Elder Qingyu had given his life to save Wenzhao and the sect master. Moreover, Wenzhao owed the sect master a debt for raising and teaching him. As long as Wenzhao was at the right level, then by all reasoning, he ought to be the one to save Qingyu. If Bailey Qingmiao was in his place, she would have offered herself, too. She just didn't understand why Lushija was making the complete opposite of the choices she had once made. Ah ha 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 ha. Lu Xinyi burst into laughter. Tears flowing from her eyes as she spoke. Yes, I love him. I've loved him since I was young. I worked hard cultivating to be with him. I wished so much to marry him. Wrapping her hands around the jade vase, her expression slowly became vicious and her voice harsh. But him? The night after we married, as he embraced me, do you know whose name he shouted? It was yours, Bailey Qingmiao. He thinks I'm unaware of what he did with Gongzijin while he was traveling. He thinks I didn't hear how he said to other people that he liked Gongzijin's eyes, because her eyes are a lot like yours. We've been married for 33 years, but has he ever truly looked at me even once? Back when we cultivated side by side, he would smile at me and fight with you to defend me, but now? Has he cared about what I feel even once? I've seen things clearly now. The only thing that matters is being strong on your own. Her gaze toward Bailey Qingmiao was brimming with barely concealed envy, but Bailey Qingmiao didn't mind anymore. If she had married her Shikshan, she probably would have become like this, Too blinded by jealousy, unable to think straight until she became a person she despised. She shook her head and sighed softly. I understand. With that, she retreated once again to being a puppet for Wenren and Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang used a technique to make the jade talisman transform into a streak of light and enter Lu Xinyi's body. If she completed this task, the spirit vow would dissolve. If she couldn't, spirit vow would destruct by itself and she would instantly die. Looking at her now, it seemed she had no more will to sacrifice herself for He Wenzhou. After Lu Xinyi left, Yin Hanjiang looked at Bailey Qingmiao and said, "Who taught you the exchange spell and the treatment for King Yu?" Wenren he was back in charge of the body now and he replied steadily, "Zhongli Qian did." Zhongli Qian was like a brick for the Xian Yuan sect which could be moved wherever it was necessary, very convenient. Since he knew a little of everything, he had a lot of medical knowledge, though not as much as Yao Jiaping. He was the one who had treated Qiu Kongxiu, and come up with the idea to let Hall Master Shi use his sickness Qi on Bailey Qingmiao. After knowing him for so many years, it wouldn't be strange if Bailey Qingmiao had learned some things from him. Yin Hanjiang stared at Bailey Qingmiao. Putting on a glove, he grabbed her chin and examined her from all angles. He shook his head. If it weren't for how you acted with Lu Xinyi just now, I would have thought. He didn't continue and just chewed Bailey Qingmiao back to her elixirs. After returning to his room, he thought, it's been just 3 days and I already can't think straight. I miss my Venerable One so much that I thought Bailey Qingmiao was him. How ridiculous. Yin Hanjiang turned his head to look at an illusion sitting in a chair next to him. He stared for a while, thinking about how his Venerable One would use the soul communion technique to treat him when he returned. He looked forward to it, but he was also worried that he would spit blood again upon seeing him and cause him further worry. After he let his thoughts wander for a bit, his emotions became unsteady. He quickly recited the clear mind mantra again, so he wouldn't reveal any weakness at Shangqing sect. As the time for the second soul communion hadn't come yet, Wenren he couldn't meet Yin Hanjiang face to face, so he could only borrow Bailey Qingmiao's eyes to watch and worry from afar. After 2 more days, the elixirs were ready. Wenren he retrieved them, placed them on a tray and followed Yin Hanjiang out of the room. Having heard that the medicines were ready, the sect master was waiting outside with a crowd of disciples. After exiting the door, Yin Hanjiang glanced at Lu Xinyi, who stood in a corner. She nodded slightly. Last night, she had talked to He Wenzhou softly, accompanying him in drinking and acting especially warm and considerate. He Wenzhou didn't particularly like Lu Xinyi but couldn't resist such tender care and shared a few cups of wine with her, spending a warm night together. He readily gulped down the water that Lu Xinyi poured for him. The water had been suffused with chaos energy. It was invisible and traceless, but overnight, it caused He Wenzhou to break through to Mahayana stage. Yin Hanjiang already knew this from the spirit vow. Everything was prepared. They only needed the last step. After only walking a few steps with Bailey Qingmiao, he heard several of the disciples transmitting gossip about her, saying who knew what Bailey Qingmiao and Yao Jiaping had been doing together in these days they'd spent alone, as well as how she could have won the favor of Wenren he, Zhongli Qian and Yin Hanjiang, in order to rise in cultivation so fast. Yin Hanjiang was at a much higher realm, so he could hear the transmissions of anyone of body unity stage or under. He wanted to ignore it, but when he heard that his Venerable One was getting dragged in the mud, he was instantly furious. He appeared before a few of the gossiping disciples. A cold light flashed with a wave of his hand, and several tongues fell to the ground. Whether or not they were hurt, all the Shangqing sect disciples began screaming. "Shut up," Yin Hanjiang snapped. Everyone instantly covered their mouths, not letting out a peep. With a troubled look on his face, the sect master said, "Sir Yao, what are you? If they can't talk properly, they shouldn't speak." Yin Hanjiang gave several of the disciples a frosty look. "Do I need to repeat what you were saying?" Several of the disciples, with blood pouring out of their mouths, shook their heads frantically. Looking at them, the sect master understood that they had spoken carelessly and offended Sir Yao. Unfortunately, their cultivations were low and the man overheard them. Yao Jiaping's actions were cruel, but it was still Shangqing sect who was in the wrong. The sect master called out quietly, "Those who have spoken nonsense should be slapped 100 times, and have their mouth sealed for 10 years. Several of the disciples nodded and were about to pick up their tongues so the medical hall disciples could reattach them when Yao Jiaping said, "Hold on." Yin Hanjiang glanced at Bailey Qingmiao, looking cheerful. "Pick them up," he said. "They're yours." Wenren he managed to say, "Thank you, Sir Yao, but Bailey doesn't need them." "How could you not need them?" Yin Hanjiang said, smiling beneath his skin. "They were gossiping about you. You should take these tongues and dry them, then hang them around your neck, so you can always see it and remind yourself to not tolerate rumors in the future, isn't that right? Now hurry up." His last command made everyone shudder. Wenren he sighed lightly and, taking out a handkerchief, confidently picked up the tongues. "Thanks to Sir Yao for his guidance," he said. "Do you always treat my Shimei like this?" He Wenzhao shouted, his eyes burning. "What if I do?" Yin Hanjiang glanced at He Wenzhao out of the corners of his eyes. "Isn't that better than you who clearly knew she was being insulted yet doing nothing about it?" Without giving He Wenzhao a chance to explain, he turned to the sect master. "The elixirs are yours. 8 hours after he takes them, the transfer can start. I'll take that time to put up the array. Besides the transferer, there should also be a high-level cultivator standing guard outside, preferably one with a lightning spiritual root." He was nominating He Wenzhao for the position. He Wenzhao was also someone who had been saved by King Yu, so it was only proper that he guard the array. As they set up the array, the blood demon suddenly spoke up in He Wenzhao's mind. "Strange, Yao Jiaping never mentioned anyone standing guard in the beginning, so how come he wants one now? He'll be standing outside the door with my Shimei at the same time," He Wenzhao said, fuming. "He wants to humiliate me by making me watch while she suffers. Since he's at Shangqing sect, he can't start anything big. But, was this Yao Jiaping always this extreme?" He Wenzhao thought back to when he was a test subject. He hadn't minded much back then, but looking back on it now, he shuddered. "He's normally like this. Master, do you remember how he treated me as a test subject?" "True," the blood demon sighed. "I just thought he was an idiot back then, but now that I look at him, he has the makings of a good demonic cultivator." "What did you say, Master?" "Nothing. The array is complete, so why don't you go over?" The blood demon sank back within his mind. For some reason, the blood demon felt especially tired today, wanting nothing more than to seclude himself and rest. He Wenzhao stood at the spot that Yin Hanjiang indicated. Seeing Bailey Qingmiao walk by, he reached out and grabbed for her wrist. "Shimei." Bailey Qingmiao avoided his hand with a flap of her sleeve. Shikshan, men and women should observe proper decorum. He had picked that up from Yin Hanjiang. He even needed a glove to touch Bailey Qingmiao, who knew what else he had learned from Shu Yanyan. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 71, Broken off all ties. Following Yin Hanjiang's directions, the sect master stood in Elder King Yu's room and began the technique. He had been told that using this array, the transferer would be able to maintain some of their spiritual essence. He waited for a moment and stood perfectly still and was overjoyed to discover that he wasn't losing as much spiritual essence as he thought he would. Standing guard outside the array, He Wenzhao glared at Yin Hanjiang and Bailey Qingmiao. At the beginning he didn't feel anything as his thoughts filled with rage. But gradually, he realized that his spiritual essence was incessantly pouring away. However hard he tried to take in spiritual energy, he couldn't keep up with the rate of loss. Abruptly, he found out he couldn't move his legs from the spot where he stood. He Wenzhou wasn't an idiot. He turned toward Yao Jieping. "Is this your scheme?" Underneath his skin, Yao Jieping slowly smiled. He had already chased off all the other Shangqing sect members, claiming that he needed peace and quiet, so now only the sect master, Elder King Yu, He Wenzhou, Yao Jieping and Bailey Qingmiao were in this side hall. He Wenzhou circulated his spiritual essence, trying to resist it, but found out that the more he did so, the quicker it was drained. "What exactly did you do?" he said. "Nothing much. I just feel so sorry for your master for being so old already and having to fall back to Foundation establishment. As his disciple, isn't it proper for you to take on your master's burdens?" Yao Jieping said casually as he enjoyed He Wenzhou's look of alarm and fury. This array was certainly an invention of Yao Jieping's. It had a very clever manner of activation. The one undergoing the transfer inside was not actually transferring their spiritual essence and was just maintaining the array, inexorably sucking away the spiritual essence of the guard outside. Yao Jieping certainly was a twisted person to think of such an array that traded people's lives. However, this array didn't have the ability to prevent the guard's escape. What Yao Jieping wanted to see was the guard running away in order to preserve their spiritual essence and the two people inside suffering the backlash from the array, one ending up dead and one injured, knowing they had been betrayed by someone they trusted. That was Yao Jieping's goal. Yin Hanjiang obviously didn't want He Wenzhou to run. That's why Wenren he had created that talisman which Lu Xinyi had gotten He Wenzhou to drink. It was made to restrain the blood demon. Wenren he was one of the only two blood cultivators in the world. During the battle at the Sea of Blood, the blood demon's attack on his blood marks allowed Wenren he to comprehend how to restrict the marks. After He Wenzhou drank the talisman he had made from primordial chaos energy, the blood demon's marks were sealed and he fell into slumber. As for He Wenzhou, he was currently affected by an immobilization spell that Yin Hanjiang had cast. Without the blood demon as backup, there was no way He Wenzhou could stand up to Yin Hanjiang, who had already broken out of the mortal realm. "Yao Jieping, you're too vicious," He Wenzhou shouted. "Vicious," said Yao Jieping. "It's your master who's inside and the Shishu you owe your life to. It's only right for you to sacrifice yourself. Don't you want to help your master? The Shangqing sect still needs a sect master who understands the bigger picture." He Wenzhou knew there was no use talking to Yao Jieping. He immediately sent a transmission to his master to ask him to stop the transfer, but it was blocked. Yin Hanjiang had already sealed off the courtyard so that only he and Bailey Qingmiao could hear He Wenzhou. Seeing his spiritual essence was already half gone and he had fallen from Mahayana to deity transformation stage, He Wenzhou gave up on yelling at Yao Jieping and turned to Bailey Qingmiao. "Shimei. Shimei, please, save me. If this goes on, I'm going to become an ordinary mortal who's just stepped through the gates. Why don't you answer him yourself?" Wenren he gave Bailey Qingmiao's body back to her, leaving the choice to her. If at this point Bailey Qingmiao's mind was still muddled by the divine nature, then Wenren he would give up on her. He might as well cherish the time he had with Yin Hanjiang before the three realms were destroyed. Regaining control of her body, Bailey Qingmiao watched He Wenzhou wordlessly, then she said, "Shikshan, Sir Yao's methods are indeed excessive, but he's not wrong. You owe a debt to both your elders and just happened to break through to Mahayana stage, so the duty should be yours. Ever since I was young, you taught me that a cultivator must not obsess over temporary gains and losses, and instead value justice above all else. I've followed your teachings for all this time, putting others before myself in everything I did. Even if I can save just one life, then it's worth it no matter what losses I suffer. If you can save Shivo's life, then what's a bit of power? The sect master is already very old. If he were to fall to Foundation establishment, then even though he says he'll be able to cultivate again, he's already over 800 years old. There's no way for the power of foundation establishment could sustain 800 years of age. After the transfer, when the technique ends, the sect master's time would instantly end up. This is just exchanging one life for another. But it's not the same for you. You're less than 100 years old, so foundation establishment power can extend your life to 150 or even 200 years. If you undertake the transfer, it's the only way every person involved can survive. This was the reason why Bailey Qingmiao didn't try to stop Wenren. She herself also thought it would be for the best if her Shikshan took her sect master's place. Shimei. Are you under Yao Jiaping's influence? He Wenzhao was frantic, but he still maintained a loving expression toward her. Shimei, think about me as well. I'm the sect master's direct disciple. All my peers' eyes are on me, treating me as an example. If I fell to a level below even an outer disciples, how will they all look at me? Do you know how hard it will be for me? Listening to him, the last traces of hesitation and affection in Bailey Qingmiao's eyes vanished. She shook her head. The sect master would have had a harder time than you. She had always thought her Shikshan was a righteous person. Even if he had relations with other women, that just meant he hadn't learned better on that front. Bailey Qingmiao understood very well how difficult to control love, so didn't really blame her Shikshan and just grieved on her own. Yet right now, He Wenzhao's actions could not live up to the words he had said in the past. He himself had never taken to heart the things he had taught Bailey Qingmiao. Shikshan, you have truly disappointed me. Bailey Qingmiao shook her head. I thought you at least had compassion. She turned uncaringly to Yin Hanjiang and said, from now on, Bailey Qingmiao has broken off all ties with He Wenzhao. We no longer have anything to do with each other. You can take up any grudge with him that you wish. I won't get in your way. The agreement that we made is nullified as of now. The condition that Bailey Qingmiao had raised before letting Yin Hanjiang bring her to Shangqing sect was that He Wenzhao needed to be judged before the public, instead of be privately condemned. Now, Bailey Qingmiao had been truly disappointed by He Wenzhao. She had no more feelings toward him and thought it was perfectly natural for Yin Hanjiang to want to take vengeance on him. I never planned to follow that agreement anyway. Yin Hanjiang gave Bailey Qingmiao an approving look. This lord is glad you were able to make this decision, in the end. He was glad that his Venerable One's efforts had not gone to waste and that Wenren he no longer needed to be placed side by side with He Wenzhao. The time has almost come. Yin Hanjiang nodded slightly, watching He Wenzhao's level steadily fall towards foundation establishment. Inside the room, the sect master watched as Elder Qingyu regained his youth, rising to body unity while his own realm had actually not decreased at all, remaining at Mahayana. He had expended his spiritual essence, but after taking some supplemental elixirs and spending a few months in secluded cultivation, it would all recover. The outcome was far better than he had expected. He sent a transmission to Yao Jiaping outside. Sir Yao truly is a legendary doctor. Shidi has recovered fully, yet your array has managed to preserve this humble Daoist's cultivation. Since he's recovered, this lord can take his fee, right? Said the man outside the door. This lord? The sect master didn't think about it too hard. Sir Yao can go ahead and say it, as long as it's something in my power. It's no big deal, Yin Hanjiang transmitted. On the 7th of next month, have all the sect masters and major elders of the Biluo, Juxing, and Tianjian sects, the Wuxiang Temple and the 4 great cultivation clans gather at Taiyin Mountain. This lord has an announcement to make. This will naturally be no issue, but what does Sir Yao want to announce? The sect master asked. If you're worried I'll set up an array there in advance, you can send out disciples to check beforehand. If you agree, then make a vow. Seeing that Elder Qingyu was slowly waking up, the sect master felt grateful towards Yao Jiaping and thought that nothing could possibly happen with so many powerful cultivators going to the deserted Taiyin Mountain, so he agreed to the vow. Well, remember this debt. This lord is leaving. Upon hearing Yao Jiaping was going to leave, the sect master stopped the technique, and after making sure his Shidi was okay, he rushed out of the room. Stepping outside the door, he stopped in his tracks, seeing his favorite disciple had now become 40 years old in appearance and was being carried off by Yao Jiaping. Yao Jiaping, Bailey Qingmiao and the unconscious He Wenzhao were all riding on an enormous drum. No one in Shangqing sect was more familiar with this drum than the sect master. 18 months ago, Yin Hanjiang had ridden it as he chased him home. Yao Jiaping ripped off the skin on his face, revealing an extremely handsome, yet somewhat cruel face. He smiled calmly at the sect master. This lord is Yin Hanjiang. He tossed He Wenzhao to Bailey Qingmiao and formed seals with both his hands. Two translucent drumsticks condensed from spiritual energy madly beat on the surface of the drum. Scarlet flames roared to the sky, carrying the burning sky drum upward. With the Moonpool Bell's wards, flight was restricted within Shangqing sect, but with the use of burning sky drum, the Moonpool Bell's restrictions were nothing to Yin Hanjiang. Among the 3 people in Shangqing sect who could use the Moonpool Bell, the sect master had expended his spiritual energy. Elder Qingyu was still recovering, and He Wenzhao had fallen to foundation establishment and was being dragged away by Bailey Qingmiao. The sect array could prevent entry but not exit. Who was left to help Shangqing sect? There was no one. If the sect master wanted to stop them, he had to get to the Moonpool Bell and activate the array's maximum strength, but he had to ride on a flying boat to get there. By the time a flying boat arrived, Yin Hanjiang would be long gone. Yin Hanjiang, do you want to start another great war? The sect master yelled, coughing up a mouthful of blood. What's wrong with that? Yin Hanjiang said indifferently. Don't forget who suffered defeat in the last war 30 years ago. If my Venerable One were not benevolent and thinking of the survival of mortal lives, how could the righteous path have even held out for 10 years? Release Wenzhao and Bailey Qingmiao, the sect master shouted. Bailey Qingmiao must return to Xianyuan sect to have her heart-linking goo and tracking curse removed. As for your disciple, this lord will take back everything he is owed, one by one. I'll be counting on you to inform the other sects. Their disciples are all at Xianyuan sect, and if they want to see them again, they better be at Taiyin Mountain on the 7th of next month. With that, an enormous flame broke through the Shangqing sect's array. Yin Hanjiang flew out while riding on the drum. After the Great Sect War and the battle at the Sea of Blood, there was no one left at Shangqing sect who could stop him. Everyone was helpless to do anything but watch as the Xianyuan sect leader entered and left Shangqing sect unobstructed. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 72, Zaiwu Soul Locking Array. The burning sky drum flew at an incredible speed and arrived back at Xianyuan sect in less than an hour. Yin Hanjiang completely removed Yao Jiaping's skin. Standing atop the drum, his red robes fluttered in the wind, outlining his lithe frame. A silver belt stood out against the red, making his waist look particularly thin. Arriving above the main hall, he didn't descend and instead transmitted loud and clear, "All members of Xianyuan sect, deploy the Zaiwu Soul Locking Array." Everyone in the main hall heard his transmission and was shocked. Qiu Kongxiu, who'd been dispirited since having all the flesh sliced off her by Yin Hanjiang, immediately brightened up. Laughing wildly, she grabbed Suhuai, who was sleeping with a book in hand and drooling. "Come on, disciple, let's go deploy the array." What array? Suhuai asked as his brains were rattled by Qiu Kongxiu's shaking. He immediately raised the emotion extinguishing rod. What is it? Are we being invaded? The Zaiwu Soul Locking Array. I've only seen it once in 300 years, Qiu Kongxiu said, licking her lips. 100 years ago, when Wenren He and Yin Hanjiang slaughtered their way into the sect and the old sect master was on the verge of death from the burning sky drum's backlash, he ordered us to seal them with the Zaiwu Soul Locking Array. The sky had turned dark at midday as over 100 experts of the Xianyuan sect set up the array, trapping the badly wounded Wenren and Yin Hanjiang. Everyone thought the two would die. Qing, who had been impaled through the brain, maintained the array most desperately of all, determined to kill them. They maintained the array for 3 days and nights. Just when everyone thought they had been killed, the twin stars of Polis and Alcade blazed in the sky. A blood-red demonic sword and black halberd broke out of the array together. Wenren flew out, calling back the 7 killing halberd, while the blood sword transformed back into Yin Hanjiang, who collapsed after being caught by Wenren and held against his chest. "I must commend you for pushing me to such an extent," Wenren said slowly. "I thought the Xianyuan sect was full of fiends with even one not worth keeping, but from what I see now, some can be used." A wave of the halberd called up the powers of the northern and southern Dippers constellations. Above Wenren's head, a star map formed. Fighting intent allowed Wenren to not feel the pain of his wounds. The power of the stars replenished his drained spiritual essence. Wenren's black robe fell, revealing starlight shining on his back. It wasn't a technique he had purposefully cultivated, but the scars left from his life and death experiences on the battlefield as a mortal. The scars mysteriously connected into a map of the 14 major stars, steadily absorbing energy from them. With a swing of the 7 killing halberd, the unleashed power of the stars injured all of the more than 100 people who was maintaining the array. At that moment, Wenren stood alone with Yin Hanjiang in his arms. At that time, all members of Xianyuan sects who had just been trying to kill him, who were still capable of getting up, kneeled before him with both hands pressed against the ground in deep kowtows. They kneeled to Wenren's power that could overcome more than 100 men, to the courage to take on Xianyuan sect with only 2 people, to this miraculous scene of starlight filling the heavens. From that moment on, Wenren was recognized by all as the Devil Venerable. And the Zaiwu soul locking array became a secret technique of the Xianyuan sect. With Wenren there, they would never need such an array. Even in the Great Sect War, it hadn't been used. Yet today, Yin Hanjiang wanted this array deployed. What kind of enemy warranted such vigilance? That was also the moment I decided I must rise to Mahayana and worked up the courage to enter the hungry ghost path, Qing said. I used to fear pain and death. Only now do I know that cultivation is like rowing against the current. Only by having courage can you surmount the heavens. But your courage is more like recklessness. Suhui pursed his lips and didn't speak his thoughts for fear of getting beaten. The Zaiwu soul locking array requires at least 99 nascent soul and above experts. Who knows if we still have that many, Qing said. Come on. Let's go watch the fun. Qing and Suhui arrived at the scene first, with Zhongli Jian following them. After a while, Xu Yanyan led a group of a dozen or so subordinates, all over nascent soul stage. Bailey Qingmiao landed smoothly. Wenren had already left her body by now. She greeted Zhongli Jian, Zhongli Xiang. Zhongli Jian took off his blindfold. He looked Bailey Qingmiao over, enduring the dizziness, then put his blindfold back on. He said in relief, "You found your Dao." "I must thank my seniors for their help," Bailey Qingmiao said quietly. "Who's the Zaiwu soul locking array for?" Xu Yanyan asked. "He Wenzhao, as well as the blood demon," Bailey Qingmiao said. "After infiltrating Shangqing sect alone, sect leader Yin has brought back He Wenzhao. Right now, He Wenzhao has fallen to foundation establishment, but the blood demon is tricky to handle, so he must be sealed." "You didn't stop Yin Hanjiang from taking He Wenzhao." Xu Yanyan didn't care about He Wenzhao's life, of course, but she looked at Bailey Qingmiao with concern. Protector Xu didn't get involved in matters of love, but she admired those in love. She thought well of Bailey Qingmiao, admiring this pure and honest girl who didn't make demands of others. If possible, Xu Yanyan wanted Bailey Qingmiao to have the best in life. Too bad heaven toyed with people, and her impassioned feelings were met with a faithless man. Bailey Qingmiao smiled gently. "Thank you for your concern, Miss Xu, but I have already seen through mortal affairs and dedicated myself to the path of indifference. Seeing as she was calling her Miss Shu, she must be thinking of the past. Xu Yanyan smiled. Back when we first met, you were still a little girl who threw tantrums because of me and your Shixin's relationship. Now 40 years have passed and you're already climbing the path to the heavens. The beautiful woman raised her head to the sky with a sigh. The path to the heavens is arduous, and so many bones lie beneath it. A single misstep can lead to your complete and utter demise. If you can't find someone who can defy the heavens with you, then you might as well abandon love and forge onward alone. She said these words for Bailey Qingmiao, but also for herself. Even if her heart was moved, whether or not she was willing to take a risk was another matter entirely. This Xu Yanyan had never indulged in love. She only pursued absolute power. Xu Yanyan didn't look at Zhongli Qian, but Zhongli Qian understood. He had realized this clever woman's intentions all along. He also admired Protector Xu, but he had never admitted it because he knew she was a vicious beauty, living a free and willful life, never to be tied down by anything. Yet, Zhongli Qian felt the sharp killing intent that descended from the sky and thought it would also be nice to be like them, two people mutually supporting each other. It was difficult to reach the heavens, but it was even more difficult to know another's heart. Is everyone gathered? Yin Hanjiang called out. Deploy the array. The plaza before the main hall already contained a huge array. 98 experts stood at the spot suited to their own elements, leaving the center spot to Yin Hanjiang. Holding an unconscious He Wenzhao, Yin Hanjiang descended, leaving the burning sky drum in the sky above the main hall as he activated the array. 99 experts' spiritual energy rotated around Yin Hanjiang in the center. With his strength alone, he would command all that power, redirecting it onto He Wenzhao and completely sealing him off. Logically, such treatment shouldn't be needed for a foundation establishment cultivator, but Yin Hanjiang had read The God of Destruction, Volume 2, and had seen all the times He Wenzhao was in desperate situations, even once being forced to destroy his own nascent soul. However, as long as he wasn't dead, he would always manage to make a comeback, becoming even stronger and crushing his enemy. So, Yin Hanjiang had to be ever vigilant. He had to keep his guard up against not only the blood demon but also He Wenzhao. That was why he had made an exception and used the Ziwu soul locking array. If this array was used offensively, it had the power to destroy a civilization. If it was used for imprisonment, even a great golden immortal couldn't escape. The array was maintained for 7 days and nights. In that time, the effects of Wenrenhe's talisman wore off and the elder blood demon woke up. Blood mist gathered within the array and He Wenzhao, who was now just ordinary cultivator, let out the howl of a demon. Why, you bastards! If this ancestor were at his full strength, a Ziwu soul locking array would be nothing. When I get out, I'll feast on all your souls, the blood demon elder roared. He had already absorbed 17 cultivators, so he wasn't easy to deal with. Some lower-level disciples were already at their limits and even Xu Yanyan was being drained. Yin Hanjiang was completely immovable, however. He pointed one finger at the blood demon while steadily pouring spiritual energy into the array, wearing him down. His other hand made swift hand seals, beating the burning sky drum, diminishing the blood mist with every strike. They were at a stalemate for 7 days and nights. The blood demon elder's spiritual essence was finally exhausted, and with the flames of the burning sky drum, he was no longer able to endure. Yin Hanjiang was at his limit too, but his expression remained unchanged, stubbornly holding on until the blood demon had no more power. With a steady voice, he called out, "For damaging my Venerable One's reputation and harming him twice at the Sea of Blood Hell, Blood Demon Elder, kneel." With his furious yell, Yin Hanjiang steadily pressed his finger down. 99 streaks of black and white qi poured into He Wenzhao's body. The blood demon continued to struggle until his strength was finally at its limit, and he fell to both knees before Yin Hanjiang. The black and white qi restricted his spiritual essence, so he could no longer escape. Yin Hanjiang was completely drained, but his expression didn't change. He ordered Qing in, throw him into the water prison and have ghost cultivators watch him night and day. If anything unusual happens, inform this lord immediately. Having risen greatly in power after retrieving his sickness Qing said gleefully, "This subordinate understands." "You too." Yin Hanjiang pointed to Shu Yanyan and Qiu Kongxiu. "Keep an eye on Bailey Qingmiao for a month. She has not yet reached Mahayana stage yet, so it's possible that something might disrupt her rationality and she might release He Wenzhou in a moment of weakness. Hall Master Miao, take the righteous disciples to Hall Master Zhongli and think of a plan that will make it impossible for the righteous sects to refuse this lord's invitation. Hall Master Ruan, follow Hall Master Shi to the water prison, set up an array there and keep watch. You have the strongest defensive armor, so if anything happens, you'll be able to protect the ghost cultivators before this lord arrives." "This subordinate understands," everyone said. By now, Yin Hanjiang had proved by his own power that he was strong enough to become the new lord of the demonic sect. After retrieving the burning sky drum, Yin Hanjiang returned to Wenrenhe's room. He clutched his chest, trying not to show weakness. The heart demons, the burning sky drum and the Zaiwu soul locking array were each difficult to endure on their own, but Yin Hanjiang had held on. "Venerable One, I finally subdued the blood demon." Yin Hanjiang smiled. Though he was exhausted, he felt carefree. He was obsessed with revenge, so he wouldn't let go of his grudge even if Wenrenhe was still alive. He didn't just want to vent his anger, but he wanted to tell everyone in the world that he protected the devil Venerable, and everyone better not even think of touching one hair on his head. Anyone who wanted to harm Wenrenhe needed to go through Yin Hanjiang. "You've done very well, better than I could have." The phantasm that looked the least like his Venerable One walked up and spoke softly. "Are you my Venerable One?" Yin Hanjiang said, looking lost. "Close your eyes." Yin Hanjiang closed his eyes obediently. Wenrenhe's faint figure rubbed his head. "Yin Hanjiang, you've done so well." 15 days had passed without them realizing it. While Yin Hanjiang's eyes were closed, Wenrenhe dipped his head slightly and kissed him on the lips, pressing their foreheads together. Even though Wenrenhe wasn't solid, Yin Hanjiang still felt a hint of warmth on his lips. What happened? As he wondered, he began to feel tired, down to the depths of his soul. Wenrenhe entered Yin Hanjiang's consciousness, to begin the next soul communion. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 73, Second Soul Communion. The first soul communion had been under urgent circumstances. Wenrenhe had just wanted to stabilize Yin Hanjiang's mental state, and so he didn't look very deeply into Yin Hanjiang's soul. The soul communion depended on the state of Yin Hanjiang's soul. If Yin Hanjiang was determined to resist him and not open himself up, then it would be no use. The previous time, Yin Hanjiang's mind was chaotic, and Wenrenhe had been immediately blocked by the memory of his confession and Yin Hanjiang reading the book. After being treated and having this period of time to calm down, Yin Hanjiang had improved significantly. There were now many points of light in his soul. Wenrenhe approached one light and saw within it the scene where he had retrieved the snow flame for Yin Hanjiang. He walked to another larger one and saw Yin Hanjiang capturing He Wenzhou. After looking at a few more, Wenrenhe realized that the many points of light of varying sizes were the memories that brought Yin Hanjiang joy and happiness. If the feeling was weaker, the light was smaller. If it was stronger, the light was bigger. In the largest light was Yin Hanjiang reading Abusive Love Affair, about Wenrenhe's confession through Bailey Qingmiao. It hung at the highest point in his sea of consciousness, bright and round like a sun. There was a blood stain within the light, however, and when Wenrenhe extended his consciousness into it, he found a mess of chaotic, dark thoughts with traces of the heart demon's interference. It was the things that caused Yin Hanjiang the most pain. Wenren he realized then that the points of light were Yin Hanjiang's happiest memories while the bloodstains were the sources of his heart demons. He walked further and further into Yin Hanjiang's sea of consciousness, searching for the origin of his deepest pain. Finally, somewhere deep, he found an enormous bloodstain, bigger than the sun hanging in the sky. This must be the root of everything. Wenren he tried to enter it but it resisted him, unwilling to let him in. Sect leader Yin, he said softly. It's me, Wenren he. When he said his name, the bloodstain shrank even tighter, forbidding him entry. Yin Hanjiang was resisting him because this was something that he didn't want Wenren he to see. What should he do, then? Hovering before the bloodstain, Wenren he felt a bit anxious. All the lights and bloodstains were events of the past, which meant that the stain before him was something Wenren he didn't know about that Yin Hanjiang had been keeping from him. Even if they were cultivation partners, there should still be some boundaries between them. If Yin Hanjiang didn't want him to touch something, he wouldn't force him. But if he didn't resolve this bloodstain, he couldn't treat Yin Hanjiang's heart demons. He really was trapped in a dilemma. Wenren he thought for a while, remembering all his interactions with Yin Hanjiang. Thinking that he also had events in his past that he didn't wish for anyone to know, and it led him to a sudden realization. If Yin Hanjiang didn't want him to probe, then he could allow Yin Hanjiang to understand him. Wenren he opened his arms. This venerable one won't overstep your boundaries. I just wanted to enter your soul and dissolve the walls between us. As he spoke, the bloodstain kept shrinking, until it was small enough that Wenren he could encircle it in his arms, and hold it to his chest. Even if it was Yin Hanjiang's dark past, Wenren he would use his body to protect it. The bloodstain slowly melded into Wenren he's consciousness. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Awu, awu. A remote and unfamiliar voice that nevertheless brought back memories rang by his ears. A gentle hand was patting his shoulder. Wenren he opened his eyes blearily and saw a beautiful woman standing near him, saying quietly, "Time to get up." It was his mother, the heroic woman who, in times of need, could put on armor and lead the militia of the border town to protect it desperately for 5 days, until reinforcements arrived and she fainted on the city wall. Wenren he found he now appeared to be a 14 or 15-year-old youth, and suddenly realized that this was his own memory. Martial arts, literature, calligraphy, you have many lessons today, so don't keep your teacher waiting. His mother held a pair of light swords. If Wenren he didn't get up, they would probably be slicing down on his hair. I'm up, mother. Wenren he leapt out of bed, quickly getting dressed and washing his face. He had grown up at the border. Manpower was limited there, so Wenren he didn't have a maid, only a servant boy who learned martial arts alongside him. He typically did everything himself, but he was in a hurry now, so he yelled, "Hand me a towel." A pair of tiny, darkened hands held a white towel out to him. After taking it, Wenren he froze. His servant boy was gone, and in his place was a child who appeared just 5 or 6 years old. His skin was covered with purple welts and half his flesh was rotten. He was dirty and stank, holding up a towel with trembling hands. It was Yin Hanjiang. Wenren he had taken in the memories Yin Hanjiang was most unwilling to face, and within his soul, Yin Hanjiang had found a suitable position to take and become his servant boy. This wasn't reality, it was Wenren he's memories. He accepted the towel but didn't use it himself. Picking up the tiny Yin Hanjiang, he wet the towel in warm water and used it to gently wipe Yin Hanjiang's body. A swollen and decaying hand slapped the towel away. "Dirty," Yin Hanjiang said through gritted teeth. Yin Hanjiang wasn't worried that the towel was dirty, but that his own body would dirty it. "A towel can be washed clean," Wenren he said. "You need treatment and a change of clothes." Changes in his mind could affect the people in his memories. His mother no longer pushed him to go study and was instead patting Yin Hanjiang's head gently. "How did this happen to little Zhang?" "Awu, help wash him, then bring him to Dr. Li for treatment. Wenren he obediently boiled water in order to clean Yin Hanjiang and dug out his own childhood clothes for him to change into. Carrying him, he used Qing Gong to get to the town doctor's house. In his childhood, Wenren he was a young general in training, always dressed in white brocade and a bit of a show-off. As he bounded across rooftops with Yin Hanjiang in his arms, the residents looked up and started complaining about how the Wenren clan's little general was leaping around again. Back then, Wenren he was a dazzling youth. His figure appeared brilliant and even the sky over the border town was a vivid azure. "Awu?" little Yin Hanjiang asked in his arms. "Before I began cultivating, Wenren Wu was the name my parents gave me. They had also planned to give me the courtesy name Tsuga, splitting apart the character for Wu," Wenren he answered. Unfortunately, before that day arrived, the Wenren clan was met with disaster, and Wenren Wu renamed himself to Wenren he. Hopping down from the eaves to the front of Dr. Li's door, he gave the man a shock. The elderly but still lively army doctor snatched up a broom beside him and swung it at Wenren he. "Why, you unruly brat! You'll scare this old man to death. Can you knock properly on the door just once? Every time, you either hop down from the roof or run in from the backyard. My old bones can't take the shock." Before his broom could connect, it was grabbed by a pair of hands. Little Yin Hanjiang glared at Dr. Li with a sullen expression. Even the dark part of Yin Hanjiang's soul was very strong. Afraid that he would start to fight, Wenren he was about to stop him when Dr. Li said, "Oh dear, whose kid is this? How did this happen to him? Quick, come in, I'll get him bandaged." He was picked up in a corpse pile. His parents and relatives were all slaughtered by foreign tribesmen, Wenren he said quietly. Dr. Li's wrinkled face was instantly filled with sympathy. He had Wenren he place little Yin Hanjiang down on a bed as he fetched strong alcohol and a knife, then began to remove the dead flesh. Back when Wenren he saved Yin Hanjiang, he healed him with just an elixir and some channeling of spiritual energy. The injuries of mortals were really nothing to a cultivator, so Yin Hanjiang had no particular impression of being treated. This time, Dr. Li painstakingly cut at the dead flesh, disinfecting with alcohol as he went, making Yin Hanjiang's face twitch with pain. Wenren he was puzzled as he watched. In the form of a soul, why would he feel pain? What was Yin Hanjiang thinking right now? Afraid of damaging healthy flesh, Dr. Li worked slowly. Only after 10 hours, with the sun having moved from the eastern sky to the west, did he finish applying medicine to and bandaging all of Yin Hanjiang's wounds. Little Yin Hanjiang's face was covered with sweat from the pain. When Dr. Li said, "Done," Yin Hanjiang fainted on the spot, his brows furrowed. "How many days had this child been hurt by the time you picked him up?" Dr. Li asked quietly, pulling Wenren he aside. "About 3 to 5 days before I dug him out of the corpse pile," Wenren he said in a low voice. He didn't know whether Yin Hanjiang could hear and they couldn't transmit messages to each other within his consciousness. "This child's a bit odd," said Dr. Li. "He's so young that I didn't want to use anesthetic as I'm afraid it would damage his brain, so I had to work without it. Some of the rotten flesh could be cut off with no sensation, but some flesh that was not yet dead but couldn't be saved would cause agony just by touching it. He's such a small child, but after that long a treatment, with me wiping his wounds with alcohol now and then, he didn't even make a sound. If it was a braggart like you, I'd believe it if you grit your teeth and didn't scream, but for such a young child to not even cry, I'm worried that there's something wrong with him here." Dr. Li tapped Wenren he's chest, over his heart. His heart? Dr. Li had noticed something was wrong in an instant, yet Wenren he back then just abandoned Yin Hanjiang on a mountain without a second thought. He thought it would be enough if he just gave him good food, new clothes, a cultivation method, and the power for revenge. A man didn't need weakness. But Wenren he hadn't realized that Yin Hanjiang wasn't a man. He was only a 5-year-old little boy, still at the age where he should cry. This child was saved a little too late, Dr. Li said, shaking his head. His left leg will probably be crippled, and there will be scars left all over his face and body. I know you're busy and Marshal and Madame Wenren are very strict with you, but you need to find the time to look after him once in a while. While I was doing the excision, he looked at you every time the pain was too much. He obviously thinks of you as his savior, so take care of him. This junior understands, Wenren, he said with a low sigh. What junior? Dr. Li slapped him on the head. Don't be so formal with me, you're practically my grandson. Awu understands, Wenren, he said, having no choice but to pick up the name he had abandoned for so long. When Dr. Li slapped Wenren's forehead, Yin Hanjiang had already woken up and glared bitterly at the hand the doctor used. After having observed him for so long, Wenren understood Yin Hanjiang's looks and thoughts, and realized he was currently angry that Dr. Li had hit him. He sat on the bed, picking up little Yin Hanjiang and letting him rest his head on his thigh. This man is Dr. Li, he introduced. He was once an imperial doctor. Upstanding men don't mention their past accomplishments, Dr. Li said. I'm just a rotten old man who was chased away for misconduct while treating the imperial concubines and exiled to the army. He turned his back, his figure seeming a bit glum. Wenren smiled. Then let's not mention that. Dr. Li's medical skills are incredible, and after coming to the border town, he saved the lives of 6,148 soldiers. A few years ago, he accompanied the army to the battlefield and saved dozens of soldiers within 3 days, finally collapsing behind the lines from exhaustion. Many times, he's brought my father and elder brother back from the brink of death, and even I. He saw that Dr. Li's ears were red and decided not to mention his accomplishments anymore. He said quietly by Yin Hanjiang's ear, at the time, the town was in a state of emergency and my 9 months pregnant mother donned armor and joined the army on the walls. When reinforcements arrived and she was carried down, she was already bleeding. If it weren't for Dr. Li's skills, I would have died in the womb. Little Yin Hanjiang blinked up at him. Actually, Wenren continued, lowering his voice, I'm his adoptive grandson. Yin Hanjiang's eyes brightened and he spoke for the first time to someone besides Wenren. Grandpa, he called out to Dr. Li. His voice was still hoarse and weak. Hearing it, Dr. Li grinned so hard his mustache trembled. Turning around, he bent down by the bed. Oh, good child. Yin Hanjiang grabbed his mustache and grinned, pulling the bandaged wounds on his face. He instantly hissed in pain. Dr. Li snatched back his whiskers and gave Wenren a look, saying that this child was finally showing some life, so keep it up. Little Yin Hanjiang was tired, so after some messing around, he rested his head against Wenren's hard and muscular thigh and slept. Before falling asleep, he thought, so these were the people that his Venerable One wanted to protect. End chapter.